Hi friends, welcome back to the KukieKnits Podcast. I think this is episode number 4. My name is Ira and I am coming to you from Sydney, Australia. I'm originally from Kathmandu, Nepal. I'm mostly a knitter, a cross-stitcher, and occasionally I dabble in other crafts. If it's your first time here, welcome. Thank you for clicking on my video and for choosing me to spend a little bit of your time with. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back to follow along with what I'm knitting. I appreciate each and every one of you that watches and leaves me any lovely comments and interacts with me on other platforms as well. I'm available on Ravelry and Instagram as KukieKnits. And thank you so much. If you want to keep up with my content, you can follow me there or you can subscribe on my YouTube video here. And it should alert you when my next podcast is up. At the moment, I don't really have a schedule. I'm sort of going on a 2 to 3 weekly basis. Today is a little bit earlier than I planned to film, but I'm away for the next couple of weekends. So I thought I'll get some filming in, especially while the weather looks alright. So thank you for joining me and let's get into the knitting. So starting with the finished objects. My first finished object is what I'm wearing. I'm finally done with it. I think this has been in almost all of my episodes so far. This is the Aurealis by Jennifer Steingass. It's an 8-ply DK weight colorwork sweater. I use the Western Yorkshire's 100% fleece Jacob's yarn in brown black for the base color, and it's all done and blocked. And the yoke is the Bendigo Woolen Mills Bloom, which is also an 8-ply yarn, and it's a color changing yarn in the colorway Red Ochre. I'm really happy with how this sweater turned out. I was having a bit of tension issues up on the top here because of how different the two yarns were. And I think a lot of it has actually blocked out really well. I really love the colors. The Bendigo yarn was kind enough to finish and start at the same type of orange tones. So for one sleeve I knit it from the inside and the other sleeve I knit it from the outside, but they're actually quite similar. So I'm super happy with that. I did make an error on my sleeve. On this sleeve, which I knit first, I knit the color work and I realized I had done a mistake, so I ripped it back and then I redid it, finished it, and then I was knitting the other sleeve and I thought, hang on, they look a little bit different. And I repeated one row too many times. Like right here, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and here there's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so this triangle is just a little bit more pointy and not as smooth. And normally I'm quite a perfectionist, but that I thought, hang on, let me finish both of them and see if it bothers me. And it really doesn't. It's on opposite ends of the body. No one's looking at it that much. It's fine, so I left it. The yarn is I am a bit sensitive to it right up on the chest, which is why I had done the rolled neck hemline. However, I think I should have added one extra short row because I'm starting to realize that some patterns I need a little, like an extra short row in the back to lift it up a bit more. So it's just a touch, like I can feel it right here. Obviously I can feel the scratchiness of the yarn, not scratchiness, I can just feel the yarn, but I can also feel the sweater like coming up right here. So I'll just be pulling it down and probably wear something a little bit more high neck. I think that's my only feedback on it. Other than that, the pattern's really well written. Of course, it's Jennifer Steingass. Her patterns are very, very popular. So she has on her Ravelry shop where if you buy 2, you can get a 3rd for free. So I've already knit one of her sweaters before, the Nordic Lights. I will link it down below. Pullover, which was a 4-ply that I knit in Knit Big Palettes last year, and then this is the second one, and I have a 3rd sweater as well in my library, but that one has color work on the sleeve and at the bottom. I think it's called the Gold Fun. So I'm looking forward to knit that someday soon as well. I think that's a 4-ply, so I might wait till I put in an order with Knit Picks because I love palette. Like, it's a great yarn. Great price point, lots of different colors, and I quite like knitting with it, and I like the finished piece with it, so I think I might make the gold fern with that as well. That's my first finished object. My second finished object was, I actually don't have it anymore because I mailed it off, but there was a lady on this Australian knitters Facebook group who was looking for people to knit a few coffee cozies for a personal event in her family, and I decided to help her out, and I knit 6 coffee cozies with my stash yarn. I have a lot of stash acrylic 10-ply in my collection from when I first started knitting. So I'll just pop a picture of it on. It was really fun. I basically, she had sent me the dimensions of the glass, and it wasn't a small coffee mug, it was like a latte glass. So I cast on 4mm needles, about 38 stitches, did 3 rounds of ribbing at the top and the bottom, and just knit for about 5 or 6 centimeters and did fun different patterns. So that was super fun. I've shipped it out already. I was on a bit of a time crunch with that, so I did about, I think I did them in 3 or 2 days. It was super fun. And then my last finished object is also another gift knit. This is a beanie. It's called Jason's Cashmere Hat. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I think it's by Sweet Fiber Co. Oh, I'm completely blanking. I will link everything down below, as I always do. But it's a great free pattern. It only comes in one size, and it's 10-ply. This yarn is a new acquisition as well. It's from the Morrison Sons Empire 10-ply in the color Beluga. I really love it. It looks really weird and long. It's actually sort of more of a skull cap kind of hat, and I got my partner to model it for us, so I'll put in a picture. So I really enjoyed the process of knitting it. I think it was a perfect palette cleanser for me. The yarn's really soft and really nice for gift knits, because it's like a super fine, super bouncy, super wash merino yarn. I never find the process of that knitting as fun. It almost, like, I feel like I'm losing control of my stitches because it's so loose and loosey-goosey. But I originally was on a time crunch with this. We were supposed to have a family event where I needed to gift this to a family member. I don't think they watched the podcast, but I'm still not going to say it. And then the party ended up getting postponed, so I had enough time to finish it. And once I slowed down, it was a bit more of an enjoyable process because I didn't feel like the yarn and the knitting was running away from me. That's my final. How funny does it look like this? It's so pointy. I'm going to have to tell my family member, like, don't worry, it fits. You don't have a cone head, I promise. That's my last finished object. And my works in progress, I actually have a couple of new works in progress. I also still have my husband's sweater and my mittens that I've done almost no progress on, so I will not be showing that today. But I have 2 new works in progress that I'm really excited about, and that's the main reason why I wanted to film today, because I'm so excited to be making these products, and I wanted to bring you guys along on the journey just in case I finish any of them in the next couple of weeks, so that it's not like a wham, here, done, bye type of project. So my first finished project is what I was talking about in my first ever episode. My friend sent me some yarn as a wedding present, and I had decided to make the Felix cardigan. It wasn't quite the right quantity, so I had ordered 2 more balls of yarn, and they arrived recently, so I've started up, which is super exciting. So the yarn is Peace Fleece worsted weight. This is the colorway Zaria Fog Blue, sorry, and this is going to be the main body of the sweater. This was the one that I ordered extra yarn in, and it's really fun and cool in the ball and in the skein. However, when I started knitting it, I think it looks like I'm knitting with dryer lint. like in a good way. I love like colors like this that, you know, they kind of look like a gray at a glance or a blue at a glance. But every time I knit with it, I feel like I'm knitting with dryer lint. So this is the Felix cardigan. And there's its trademark increases. If you're a knitter, you've been around on the Instagram and Ravelry and YouTube page for YouTube knitting for a while, you'll recognize this instantly. Very popular, very nice pattern. So I've just divided for sleeves, and my plan is to color block it because I have 2 more colors of the piece fleece. I'm planning to use this colorway on the bottom of the body as well as the sleeve. And this is called Bonnie Blue Gap, which is a darker navy, but also like a heathered with lots of, the camera's not catching it quite well, but there's actually a lot of neon green in it, and like neon blue and purple and reds. So it's I think going to complement the Zaria Fog colorway really well. And then I have just a white for basically the ribbing in the collar, the bottom, and the sleeves if I can get it. So I'm a little bit nervous about how I can work around the amount I have. So my plan is to knit the body first because I have enough of the Zaria blue that I know I'm going to have enough of the sleeves. And then for the last maybe couple of inches, pop this in. I need to check how much, like how long or like how long the ribbing is, because I want the blue to be a little bit wider than the ribbing so it looks more like a color block than striping at the bottom. So my plan is to insert this and then do the ribbing with this. Then I plan to pick up the collar and the button bands and do all of that. And then I'll divide the rest of this into 2 and do it on both the ends of the sleeves, how much ever I can get out of it. And hopefully I'll have enough left for using the white in the ribbing on the sleeve. If I feel like I'm running low, I might actually use more of the Zaria Fog in this sleeve, use this in the bottom and the top half of the ribbing to create a color block look, and just use this in the final few rows of ribbing just to have that white continuance. So I need to play around with the quantities and we'll see how it goes. Even though I only have one yarn, 1 ball of each, the first ball of the Zaria Fog actually went quite a long way. So I'm feeling sort of alright, like I think I'll be alright. So that's my Felix cardigan, work in progress. That's been my palette cleansing, easy stockinette knitting that I'm taking to knitting events and stuff as well. I'm really enjoying it. The first ball of Zaria Fog actually smelled like you know when you've been sitting next to a bonfire and then the next day your clothes smell like old smoke? It was sort of smelling like that, which is not a smell I enjoy. And I was convinced that there was something on fire in the kitchen. But it has aired out. And the other 2 balls of Zaria Fog don't do that, so I'm not quite sure what happened there. That's alright, because it's not been washed, like the yarn is not washed during its process of spinning. It said so on the ball band, and that once you wash it after you're done knitting, when you're blocking, it really blooms. Then I think obviously the smell will go away then, so it probably got in somewhere into the sheep. I don't know, somewhere, doesn't matter. That's just one of the fun parts of using a really rustic, low processed yarn. There's also quite a bit of vegetation in it, because when I was first knitting with it I was like, ooh, this is prickly, what the heck, and then I realized it was mostly grass. So the yarn itself is really nice. Yeah, that's my first my first work in progress. My second work in progress, I'm so excited about it. I'm really enjoying this. This is the Poetry Pullover by Sari Nordland. It is such a beautiful pattern. I had shown this yarn. It's the Bendigo Woolen Mills Tweed in the colorway Old Rose. So it's mostly wool, a little bit of viscose, and then there's the neps, which are acrylic, I think. But the neps are really subtle, like they're not a bright white or anything. They're actually more of a tan, like here. So it's a really nice subtle tweed. I really, really like it. I had shown this in my first podcast because this yarn has been discontinued. It's not available anymore for sale, and I had bought a sweater quantity and I didn't know what I wanted to make with it. And a few days after releasing that, sorry Nordland released the picture of the poetry pullover, and I just, oh, I gasped. It's so beautiful, and I thought, you know what, it's perfect in this yarn. Because of the viscose, the bamboo element of it, the yarn has a little bit of a shine, which I thought would really bring out the lace. A lot of people have said that the viscose sort of really relaxes the yarn, so which is perfect for lace. Like, it should really open up and show all the details. And of course it's pink, so I'm quite happy with that. That's where I am so far. This is actually my second time knitting the yoke. I had knit quite a bit further past this, and then it just wasn't looking right. I've always had issues with my slip knits, and I was looking up a few like hacks to make it lie flatter, and I accidentally clicked on like the series of pictures, I think on Tin Can Knits, that shows you how to do the original like slip knit, and I was like, hang on, that's not how I do it. It turns out I'd been doing it wrong this whole time, and now I just keep seeing how bad my slip knits are in all of the previous projects I've knit. I was having a real issue with that in the botanical yoke pullover that I'm wearing in the first podcast as well, because the left leaning just didn't look clean, and everyone was like, don't worry, it'll block out. It didn't block out, because guess what? The way I was doing my slip knit, it was not a left leaning stitch, it was a right leaning stitch. And I had like a crisis about it on my Instagram, and everyone was like, oh, so were you slipping it, you know, not knitwise? I was like, no, the slipping was fine, I was knitting it wrong. How? Okay. So it's slip knit. You slip knitwise, you slip knitwise, and then it says knit because you're supposed to knit through what is the front loop of the slip stitches. But because you slip it and you twist it, the front loop actually goes into the back. So the physical motion of knitting it is actually like knitting it through the back loop. But because it just said knit, I was knitting it around through the front leg of it, which was the back loop. So I was like twisting it the other way. So instead of a left leaning, it was becoming a right leaning stitch, and it did not look good. It was bothering me, so I ripped it out. I was originally planning to leave it because this folded collar was actually quite finicky for me to do, and I didn't want to undo it. And the way that the pattern is, the last row of the collar is where actually it tells you to just sew down the collar, but I did a provisional cast on and then knit it together, and you know, in the last row. So the last row is like all knit two together and purl two together, and then the first row of the yoke after that has increases. So there's like 14 or 15 make one lefts. And I tried to pick it up and I was getting confused, and I was like, oh no, oh no. So I did a crazy thing. I just took it off the needles. I ripped it all out till the second row of the yoke, and then I ripped that row out one stitch by one and picked up with the needle and a thread while I was doing it, and it worked perfectly. I got it from the beginning of the round to the end. I got all of the increases, which was good because I think I would have had to put it aside for a bit to, you know, mentally prepare to do this collar. Not only the provisional cast on and the knit two together was a bit finicky, but it's also on 3mm and it's twisted stitches, so it took a while, so I didn't want to redo it. However, I am so happy I did that because the lace, you know, once it's done correctly, is looking just perfect. It is so beautiful. And I'm also enjoying the process the second time around because I have mostly Knit Pro needles, wooden and metal, mixed together, and it's knit on 3.5s, and 3.5s happen to be the only one that I didn't have a metal needle for, so I was using the wooden needle, and this yarn's quite splitty, so I wasn't enjoying it. And I ended up buying a Chia Guru red fixed cable on 3.5s on an 80 centimeter, and I'm really enjoying using this needle. I'm definitely finding it's knitting faster. I'm so excited to see this knit come to life. It's just so beautiful. I've done a bit of lace knitting, even though all of my slip knits are wrong. Oh, the sun's gone and the sky is completely dark gray, so hopefully the lighting is still alright. Hold on. Yes, so I'm very excited to see this. I've never done a full lace pattern. I've done lace in the back of a cardigan, I've done lace here and there, but I'm very excited to make a full lace sweater. I'm really enjoying the process as well. Keep an eye out. Okay, coming up to the acquisitions. There is a bit of acquisitions. I don't know what to tell you. Well, I do know what to tell you. This is what I bought. As I stated in my last podcast, my partner did not like the yarn I bought for his mittens, so I bought some new yarn to make his mittens. And I'm actually really excited. I've heard a lot of good things about this. This is the Millpost Merino. Okay. In 4-ply in the colorway dark gray. It's a really nice soft yarn. I'd heard a lot of good things about this company. I remember watching them on the Fruity Knitting Podcast. It was like two Aussie blokes in colorful beanies just talking about how much they like their sheep. So I was like, I'm in. So hopefully that will become mittens sometime before the next winter. My next acquisition are these cute little labels from Labels by Kylie? Yeah, Labels by Kylie and the Machine. To put into the back of your sweaters, they're so cute. I love this one. It's like a pastel background and it says handmade. And I like this one as well that says one of a kind. I've realized in sweaters where the short row is under the yoke, like my Magnolia Bloom where the short row is under the yoke, I get really confused which is the front and the back. So I'm glad I got these because I think this will help me. It'll tell me how to wear my sweater. Coming up in my knit life, you'll see that I went to the Convent and Chapel Yarn store. And I have a few acquisitions from there. Oh no, the weather. Yeah. The UK is having an Australian summer and Australians having a UK weather. So, you know, climate change, bringing the world together. So this is the Convent Denigo Light, which is a 4-ply yarn. It is so beautiful. I'm actually having a complete mental space blank on what the colorway is. So I'll put it on the screen. I went to the yarn store with the idea of knitting the Pressed Flower Shawl by Melanie Hoffman. And it's an 8-ply shawl, but I really like this pink and they didn't have it in a DK weight, so I got enough to hold double. And it's the Irish tweed, so it has tweed in it as well. So beautiful. And I found yarn in their clearance basket, which is always fun. They said they couldn't remember what the yarn was, but it's a 4-ply merino superwash, I think, in this colorway. It is so pretty. It's actually coming up a lot more blue on screen, but it's definitely like a sage green. And I thought that it would look really good together with the pink. So the body of the shawl is going to be this color, and then the flowers are going to be in this color. It's going to be beautiful. I'm so excited to cast it on. When I popped into the Morris & Sons store in the city to buy the yarn for the beanie, I also lost my mind and bought some sock yarn. This is the Regia Tweed in the colorway 90. If you're wondering why I said I've lost my mind, it's because I don't knit socks. However, I really want to start knitting socks. And I know this yarn's like basically been discontinued but available in a few other places. They had like 3 or 4 left total of this, and it's really affordable. It was like $10. And look, if I'm gonna try to knit a sock, I want to knit it with some commercial yarn first so that I get used to it before I start using any of my nice hand-dyed yarn. And everyone says really good stuff about this yarn, so I bought one. Okay, I bought one to peer pressure myself into knitting socks, and hopefully it works. You guys will be the first to know if I cast on a sock. I'm doing a yarn swap with Marina from the Strawberry Patches podcast and yarn dyeing company in New Zealand, which is super exciting. So there's been a few other yarn purchases as well. Once I send it to her and she's opened it, I'll show you guys pictures of it on mine, so I'm not going to show it on here. And when we do get the swap done and I get her yarn, I'll definitely open it on the podcast for you. And I have one last acquisition. I go regularly to the 3 Cat Yarns knit nights, and when I was there, I saw this color. It's called Nymeria, and this one is on her soft sock base. It's like purple with speckles of green and purple and blue. Just super cute. So I bought it. I don't know what I'm going to make with it. However, I am going on an overseas tropical type holiday in about a couple of months time, maybe a month and a half. So I wanted to get a couple of single skein projects. So I'm thinking maybe like a ripple bralette or ripple cami, or maybe even the hipster shawl by Hohi Locatelli, like something light and easy that I can carry and knit in a hot country. Yeah, those are all of my acquisitions. And coming up to the Knit Life chat, me, Mel from 3 Cat Yarns, and Patricia from the Serial Sewist, as well as the Colorways Collective, decided to go for a long road trip to the Convent and Chapel Yarn Store in Rylstone, which is about a 3-hour drive out of Sydney, last weekend. It was wonderful. I was supposed to meet them at like about an hour across from where I live in Sydney to near, what am I trying to say? I was supposed to go and meet them about an hour away from my home because that's closer to where Patricia lives, and she was driving us. And I had packed everything, I was so excited, and then I get woken up by a phone call from them being like, "Where are you? We're here." And turns out I completely slept through my alarm. I've been having a really busy week at work and sort of still recovering from the flu, so I didn't hear the alarm at all, and I was so sad. I was like, "Oh, you guys go without me," but they were so lovely. They were like, "We'll just have breakfast, just run over, like get the train," and they went to have breakfast, and then I luckily had already packed, ran to the train station and got over there in shockingly record time, and then we left for the drive. Convent Chapel was amazing. The owners there are so kind and so lovely. We did some damage to our wallets. It's such a beautiful store. We are already planning to go back, maybe for a night, like a sleep, like we'll crash somewhere the night off so that there's not so much driving on the way back. So I have some footage from that coming up. I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. What is your favorite yarn store that you've ever been to? Especially if you're in Australia, I would really like to hear. I love supporting small businesses, and even though there are those, they do stock yarns that you can find in other places, I think I would like to start trying to support the Aussie yarn businesses and stores more. Because you know, the hand knitting industry is not in Well, it's sort of in the danger of running out, especially in Australia, if we don't support it. All of our wonderful yarn always gets exported, all of our wonderful wool always gets exported, and there's only a handful of mills, and even they are having issues. So staying in business, I know Adagio, there was a whole thing about it. So I think I really, really want to support Australian industry where possible. So yes, what is your favorite yarn store? And if you have a little story or incident, or have a little, fun anecdote about the owners or something that you got from there, please write it down below in the comments. I'd love to hear what your experiences are. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Coming up is a little bit of footage from my visit. And have a good day and have a good next few weeks until I see you next time. Bye!